Good. And so our next speaker is going to be, I hope I'm going to say this right, Mary Creese, from the University of Washington. I'll let you introduce yourself properly and say your name correctly, and make up for my poor pronunciation. Um, y- I know you warned me that you speak fast, so but I say you've got plenty of time. You've got at least 20 minutes to do your thing. So if you're ready to start presenting, it's over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let me just go ahead and start this.
That's it. I can see you in authoring view. I can.
Uh-oh. Let me get out of here because it looks
Okay.
like it's let me escape and then I'm just gonna um sorry, I'm uh how do I turn off uh
Well,
turn off
it
there we go.
depends
Use
on people
present.
set it. Yeah,
Okay,
and
I,
then
I think this should
try
work
that.
now. Okay, and then I'm gonna first I'm just gonna um, put this here. Sorry about this,
No
everyone.
worries.
Um,
We've all been there. We know what it's like.
yeah. For whatever reason, it wants to, which is fine. If it goes on the second screen, it goes on the second screen. Let's see. Let me, okay. It means I won't be looking straight at you,
That's
unfortunately.
okay.
Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen. I'm just gonna go back to the beginning. Okay. All right.
Got it.
So great. Okay, so basically I'm going to talk about integrating statistics generation into digital preservation workflows. My name is Marie Chris Gatlabayan. I'm the digital preservation librarian at the University of Washington Libraries. Um, so let me go here. So basically I have these ingest register and tracking sheets. And basically their main purposes is to help me manage the preparation of multiple bags for ingest. So I could have one bag being rsync to our AWS server. I could have one being transferred in Archimedica. I could have one being stored. So it helps me kind of keep track where all these bags are in the different stages or workflow of ingest. Um, I have this tracking sheet so I could record any issues regarding the ingest of the bag. So for example, if it fails validation in Archimedica, I'm able to keep track of that. So it kind of adds as my audit log. It's also a great way for me to see if something is failing. If I set something to ingest at 10 a.m. and it's 3 p.m. and nothing has happened, I know something is wrong. It also serves as the register where I document my UUIDs, the unique identifiers that Archimedica generates for the bags, the apes that I'm going to be ingesting into our preservation repository. And it also collects more detailed information about what's in the bags. And then it Because of all the information that I'm gathering using to track my workflows, data that I'm using to implement scripts, it also helps to get a secondary use, which is creating statistics and that I can use for advocacy and planning. So, um, in the beginning, when I first started in 2023, there were 11 registers that dated from 2017 to 2024. And I have here a list of kind of our current fields, and you can see that I documented when these fields started, which registers they were used in, the definitions of what goes into each field, and then basically the fields that were mapped to that field. So these fields were used in other registers that as I cleaned up and consolidated all these 11 registers into one, I went ahead and mapped the data from these fields into this fields in the main register. So I also documented what those fields look like the retired fields and where they were used as well. So again, I'm just a documentation person. I want to make sure that things are documented. It's really good for when you're doing statistics, why it looks really skewed, like there's no entries pre 2024, well, that's because that field didn't exist before. So if you want accurate statistics, you got to start from 2024 or 2023. So again, it's just a good way to make sure that you're getting accurate statistics is to keep track of when fields were added or when fields were taken away. Um, so these are kind of the qualities of the tracking sheets that I have. I'm using Google Sheets. The tracking sheet that I use for ingest has 41 fields. I know it sounds like a lot. 28 fields are filled out. Those are just fields that I fill out to track when things are done, that have information I need to fill out scripts and do things. So it's really just kind of like my home base to get things done. I have 4 fields that are auto-generated that are based on dates so that in the future, if I want to document or figure out how long something took to get done, I can do that. And then there are these 9 fields that have historic information that could not easily be mapped to other fields that I'm using, but may be helpful to be in the ingest sheet itself when I need more information about that package that was ingest or that ape. I have 3 types of fields. I have a regular text fields, I have a date fields, and I have controlled vocabulary. Um, so this is kind of like some samples of my ingest register slash tracking sheet. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but we have a submission name. So this is the name of the submission packet that gets ingested. That also works as a way for me to track if someone wants to ask about a package, they might have the name they used originally. We can search by that. The date that the package was submitted, the person who submitted it, so I can go back to them for questions, the size of the package that was transferred, and then I update it to the size of the package when it's ingested, the number of files, where I'm actually working on it. This worked out really great when we figured out that we might have some HIPAA content. We went back to our working source and made sure working location, made sure we wiped that location completely. We have a way to track whether it's been reformatted, which means digitized, or born digital, which is a way for us, again, to kind of keep statistics about the content of our preservation repository. And then we have source or curatorial area, because sometimes the person who's submitting the content may not be the actual curator or selector or manager of the content being preserved in the preservation repository. And again, kind of double duty, this allows us to keep statistics about the collections being preserved in the preservation repository. Again, it just keeps on going. I have the title, so that helps me come up with the ape name. We have a naming convention, restrictions, just to keep us aware if there's anything we should be aware of. The UUID, that's again kind of generated by Archimedica. And then I have the ape date so that when I want to generate statistics on average how long things take to from submission to ingest, I can make those calculations. Um, and then I have this grab all text field, which one day I might be able to like use Python to crawl and get specifics about how long, like how many hours things take. But basically, this is where I just kind of log when things are syncing, transferring, any errors that happen. Again, just to make sure that I'm keeping track of where things are in the ingest process. Um, because the ingest process can experience many hiccups. I haven't standardized this because I may be transferring multiple times if it fails in Archimedica multiple times. Um, I also have a preservation actions tracking sheet. So this is an example of, again, there are different statuses of where the preservation action is happening. So a preservation action is basically ape is in the preservation repository and something needs to be done to it. Examples are it needs to be deleted permanently. I need to restore it for a depositor who wants to deliver it to a researcher. Sometimes I have to delete and replace ape that was stored in the preservation repository. And again, it just allows me to keep track of all the preservation actions that are being done on an ape. I know that in some systems, like in Preservica, this would be something you would see an audit log do, right? It would tell you when something's been deleted, it would tell you when something's been replaced. Mine is a little bit more manual. Um, and then again, I keep track of who makes the request, which department, who's doing it. So again, I get an idea of like the common people that I'm working with. And then again, dates, right? It's easy to just do a checkbox, like boom, I'm done. But I might as well have data that I can use for statistics. So that's what I do is I just enter dates that I can use for statistics. And you can tell that it's mostly me who's doing most of this. Um, so then, what does all this data look like? How do I make this data work for me? And what I do is I use Power BI. Power BI allows me to link to Google Sheets and bring that data into Power BI to create kind of portals that allow me to filter things and create reports and do all sorts of different things. I really enjoy it. And sometimes I geek out on it too much where it's like, I don't know if this information is even useful, but it's fun for me. So for example, I have a page where I can track all of these packages that have these statuses, and I can see how many packages that I have that need to be ingested into the preservation repository and the size. So 3.7 terabytes. This is really helpful for me when I get someone who wants to know, for example, for a grant, or wants to know how much that's going to take to ingest their content. I can tell them how big my backlog is because I can estimate, according to my statistics that I've had in the past, how much I can ingest in a week. Um, and that's another way where I can also kind of use the statistics to just track in general, like with a program. So, for example, I have statistics here by fiscal year, and and I have statistics here by the source of curatorial area. So again, it gives me a chance, and it gives my depositors a chance to understand what they have in the preservation repository. Down here in all my reports is a little table of all the fields that correspond with when you select something. It'll respond, like for example, if I clicked on music library, all the music library content will show up in this table, and I can export that data to do even more statistical work. This has been really helpful because it allows me to kind of look at our kind of use of storage because I just started in 2023. We're still trying to figure out our baseline now that we have a full-time person. So it's been really helpful to figure out how much storage we ask for the next year or the next fiscal year. Sometimes for me, it's kind of like knowing how well we're doing. Like, are we on target? Are we um, kind of meeting what we were doing last year? So, for example, in 2025, I said this is the first ingest that we had for the fiscal year of 2025-26, and I set it to the date 2/23/2026, and we have ingested about 13.8 terabytes. I look at last year, set the same amount of dates, and I can see that we were at 15.3 terabytes. So it's not too bad. You can also see that we definitely had more packages that got us to that. So it's again just getting an idea of the flow and how much content is coming in so that I can better understand how much storage to ask for next year. Was last year just a banner year, or is this going to start being a consistent thing for our program? Um, I use statistics to advocate. So we were able to show that using the statistics that I collected, about the size of packages that I was receiving. We were able to get more processing power in order to process more bags, which really helped us address our backlog. So you can see here around this time, we started to increase and get we're able to increase and do more uh, gigabytes at a time, and I wasn't able to fit the entire graph, but you can see that it just gets bigger and bigger by each day. And so it's been really helpful also to kind of show that there is like the results of that advocacy. Because at one point there was discussion that the processing power would only be for a year, but we've proven that there is enough of a backlog and we're receiving enough packages that are of significant size that we would require the processing space that we needed or that we requested. Um, I'm also working on a special collections statistic portal so that special collections also gets to get access to their statistics so they can understand how many packages they have, how many gigabytes they have, how many numbers of files. This isn't something that's easily documented in archive space. So again, they can kind of select um, what they want, select the dates that the apes were ingested, and then they can click here and generate a report. And then they can work with those statistics. I think it would be helpful if, for example, if they were considering weeding or considering, maybe figuring out what collections haven't been ingested. So I think I hope it's going to be useful in the future. I've only released it to 3 different people so far. What they've been really using it for is actually this. It allows them to search by accession number and pull up all the packages that have that accession number. And then they can export a report that has the information about that package. Again, there's just all sorts of statistics. If they want to, like this one, they can look at what's been restored, how many apes were restored each year, how many times are their collections being asked to be restored, like how many reference requests. So again, it's another way to generate statistics on what's being requested. And then again, it's another portal that I'm hoping people will use if they want to use it, if they want to check out where their packages are in terms of progress. They can search by accession number and look through the table to see where it is. So for example, if it's in a blocked issues status or something like that, and then contact me if they have any questions. Um, and then, as I mentioned, this is kind of the example of what happens with, like if they have any questions, if they find any packages, they can just look up at the processing notes and figure out like why it's blocked. And that's it. Sorry, I talk really fast when I get nervous. Um, thank you so much for listening to me, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Mary Chris. Yeah, and again, everyone's beaten me to it. The virtual applause is sweeping around the room. That's great. So we've had a couple of comments from in the Slack. Sorry, in the chat channel. I must stop saying that. One of which came from my colleague at the DPC, Jen Mitchum, who asked, "Have you created all these dashboard views yourself?" And I
Yes.
guess implicit in that, so there aren't any sort of models or templates. I don't actually know the Power BI at all. It's a Microsoft product, isn't it? And is it
Yeah.
free? Has it a big learning curve, or are you just naturally brilliant, or what?
No, it's Power BI is a Microsoft product that usually comes with Microsoft Office. I'm
Okay.
more familiar with it because it was offered for free at my last job. There is a learning curve, but I think just getting the content in there and playing with it is fine. Just knowing what a filter looks like and what a table looks like. Just a lot of experimentation. And I've been practicing with it for about 2 years. Um, so that's how it got to that way. And I knew someone who used it before me, so
Okay.
I knew how they could, what was possible, I guess you could say.
And Jen followed that up with a follow-on question. So she's asking, what do you think are the most important statistics to collect for digital preservation and why? You mentioned storage statistics so do you predict sort of future storage needs or anything else that you find particularly valuable for advocacy or decision making?
Yeah, I think the storage for me is also looking at like right now it's important for me in terms of looking at the number of packages I'm ingesting because we had a reduction in our MCP clients, which has reduced us to ingesting one package at a time. So now I have to advocate for returning of those MCP clients. I can do multiple packages. Again, I think for me also. It's the collection of the gigabytes for the storage and it's the collection of the dates, right? For me, it's kind of looking at what roadblocks are kind of happening and what's taking longer that shouldn't take too long. And then again, it's kind of like, for example, when something is down like Archimedica, I can go back and be like, look, I've lost some days here for ingest. Typically I can get this amount of stuff ingested in a week, but I can't anymore. Yeah.
Thanks, Mary Crease. And Mary Grace Costa's put a question about, well, she's very impressed by the tracking, as I think are a lot of people looking at the comments that you're getting. But she's asking, how do you actually receive submissions? Do you have some kind of internal transfer system for Born Digital materials or?
Oh, so basically, it comes in multiple ways. It depends on the depositor, but from special collections, we have a directory called the parking lot where they deliver their bags. If anything is too big to be saved in the parking lot, we'll receive things in hard drives. For other departments, we'll typically receive things in hard drives.
Okie dokie.
Yeah.
And as I say, Rich has given, as amongst others, has given you very fulsome praise for and singing the merits of analysing people's logs, and more people
Yeah.
should do it. And I think you've made a very convincing case for that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's kind of like I don't have someone to create my audit log for me, so I have to do it. Or I'll figure out like what was I doing with this package before I was, so it's
Yeah.
just been really helpful.
And Mary Ellen's just asked, how often do items need to be deleted permanently, and for what kind of reasons?
Oh, that's a good question. So, I'm actually going through one example right now. Archimedica froze and indexing didn't work. So it actually stored the package without it being indexed in the database. So now I need to go back in there and delete that package and re-ingest it so that it can be indexed in our database. Sometimes things may be deaccessioned, so you from a collection, so that accession or that bag in the preservation repository needs to be updated to reflect that deaccession and then maybe readjusted, or if that whole accession is being deaccessioned, removed completely.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. So when you were coming up with the various fields of data that you're collecting, did you do that entirely on your own, or did you like have a group of people come together and decide which would be the most useful bits of data to keep and record, or does it evolve naturally as people, ask for extra things in your reports and your dashboards?
I think, and I see that Mariah is here. A lot of the fields were predetermined because my predecessor had, diligently created and done tracking herself. And then what I did was, as the workflow had changed, I integrated fields that I needed to keep track of, that I thought would be helpful for me. So it's really kind of a working document. It's not it's just there to track my workflow with the added benefit of having statistics.
Okay, okay. And you described the sort of I'm sorry if I get the terminology slightly wrong, but that you've built a kind of like special portal for colleagues in special collections that they can see
Mhm.
their stuff and what's going on. Is that sort of just a sort of read-only view that they can see, or can they enter data, or can they correct things and sort of say, oh, and actually you need to speak to this person, or I didn't submit it on that date. Mary Crease has got that
Oh
wrong. It
yeah,
was another. So
yeah.
can they
But
edit the stuff?
no. And that was very purposeful, which is why I don't want to give them access to the actual tracking sheet. There's so many, I mean, that's the only copy, right? So it's very easy to accidentally edit something.
Okay.
So having them be able to interact with the data in a portal to search, to get information about their packages is really helpful and gives them access to their data and they can accidentally edit something. It also gives them the opportunity to, again, come back to me and say, look, I noticed that the curatorial area is different than what we have it now. Can you change that? So again, it that way we're not making changes without us having a conversation about it, right? Because what I like to do is we talk about documentation and premise. I need to document when things change. So, yeah.
Okay. And then my last question, and again, I'm sorry if you mentioned this in your presentation. A lot of the sort of field entries that you had, sorry if that's not the right terminology, seem
No
quite sort of
worries.
standardized. Now,
Mhm.
is that because you've got sort of like some kind of controlled vocabulary so that you can search and analyze it later, or is it just you do
Yeah.
a lot of cutting and pasting between things, or what?
Yeah, I keep it short and sweet and just standardized so that one day if I wanted to, I can use a Python script to scrape all that data out. So that I can one day create a table and analyze by the hour how things take or by the day. So right now, all my statistics are done by day. If I wanted to see how long things took by the hour, I could do that maybe in the future.
Okay. And lastly, I'm just being nosy now. You implied, I think, that you can use these sort of your tracking data to sort of make predictions about the storage you're likely to need and the way things are going. Um, does that work? Is that a strong advocacy tool with your IT guys, or do they just sort of say, no, what you've got is what you've got, and you're going to run out of storage? That's your problem. Or
I think our IT department is really supportive of digital preservation
yeah,
and want to make sure that and believe that it's really important. So they trust me, and when I say that, yeah, I think we're going to do 20 again, and they're like, okay, we'll do 20. And in the back of my mind, it's like, we better do 20 because I said to it. That's why I'm checking my statistics. I'm like, oh, are we getting to where we need to go? Um, but yeah, so and because I started at the end of 2023 as the first
mhm.
full-time digital preservation librarian, the statistics are very young, right? This is the first time someone's doing it full time. I'm not really going to have a good assessment in terms of how much each year I'm going to be pulling in. So yeah, right now it's just, making assessments on 2 years data.
Okay, but I can see that's very useful, very powerful, as you say, for advocating with colleagues and answering the sort of questions that come into all of us. Well, as I say, I'm seeing a lot of positive comments and pats on the back for you, Mary Chris, for what you've
Thank
done,
you.
admiration, and for your predecessor. So thank you for that.